Hi everyone, Thomas here from RLB Digital. I'm here with Cam and Vincent from Knowify, a great product that we'd like to demonstrate for you. They work in the online space. It's a great product that works with QuickBooks Online. Happy to turn over to Cam to sort of give us an introduction to the product, and we'll take it from there.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas. As you said, I'm here with Knowify. I'm Knowify's head of marketing and partnerships, and I'm joined by Vince on our team who leads support and has been with Knowify for many, many, many years. I'm going to share my screen really quick and just run you through a very quick presentation that shows a little bit about what Knowify is, who it's for, and kind of why we exist, which is to fill the gaps in QuickBooks. So Knowify is a project management software designed for trade contractors. This is profit-focused contractors. You'll understand that in a second. But primarily for trade contractors, and we cover the full project workflow from first bid all the way through final payment on the job and everything between. So it's tracking job progress, it's all your job costing, your change orders, all your project reporting, like your WIP reporting, your progress billing, everything you do on a job should be contained to Knowify, and it all speaks with QuickBooks in real time. When we say trade contractors, who are we talking about? We mean teams between 2 and 200 people who are doing at least some work that's lasting longer than a day. It's not all just dispatch work. These are folks who are working on projects that last weeks, months, or years, and there's some level of complexity to them. They're based in the US and Canada, and they're either using QuickBooks today or they're ready to switch to QuickBooks. You can see just a few of the trades that use Knowify for sake of example: electrical contractors, plumbers, roofers, HVAC, mechanical, masons, glazers, and so on. And here's a great quote from one of our customers, Mike Half, who actually happens to be based up in Vancouver. I didn't have a great way to give my team project info in the field. I had to be on site with them and then go back to the office to handle all the admin work. There has to be a better way to do this. Mike found Knowify. You'll find them all over our site now. So who's Knowify not for? Let's get that out of the way too. We're not for those contractors who exclusively serve homeowners. If you're building homes, if you're just doing residential service calls, that's not really who Knowify is for. There's other great solutions out there in the market for those contractors. If you work with one GC, you're a subcontractor, but you exclusively work with a single GC, you probably don't need a Knowify. You're probably going to have to use whatever the GC mandates. And if you work with inconsistent subs and you need to send jobs out to bid frequently, so if you don't have the same group of subs or your own team that's self-performing work, Knowify is going to be a tough fit for you. We're also not for commercial GCs or those who are doing residential services. So if you're building Super Bowl stadiums, go use Procore. It's a great tool for that. We are not that. And what sets us apart? World-class support. That's why we brought Vin here. We have an incredible, entirely US-based support team. They'll jump on the phone with you, a screen share, answer emails, hop on chat, whatever you need to kind of get your issues resolved. Our support team's ready. And our average response time is under 15 minutes, including holidays, weekends, and nights. I mean, it's a really first-class team. We're easy to use, even for the tech-averse. Very important in construction, as you can imagine. There's a very low learning curve to Knowify. Most folks get up and running in a day or two. And they're tools your team will actually use and love. I mean, we have folks who come to us from expensive ERP solutions with a lot of power, a lot of functionality. They sound great on the surface. But if your team's not using them, they're not really all that valuable to you. This is a tool that people actually enjoy using. And then our QuickBooks integration, right? And this is something we'll spend a lot of time talking about today on the product walkthrough. We have the best QuickBooks Online product integration in construction. I would dare say across any vertical, it's probably one of the best. We have built out APIs with the Intuit engineering teams. We have access to parts of QuickBooks that nobody else does through APIs that we've helped build with those teams. And Knowify was originally built from the ground up to fill the gaps that exist in QuickBooks Online and for construction. So you can see almost everything maps both ways in real time between the two products, including projects in QuickBooks Online Advanced. That's one of those APIs we helped build with the Intuit team. And projects, of course, are very important for contractors working on projects. We also integrate directly with QuickBooks Payroll, with QuickBooks Time, and with QuickBooks Payments. And actually, as of last week in the United States, we integrate with Intuit Enterprise Suite, the newly announced product. I don't think it's available in Canada yet, but we're the only construction software, period, that integrates with IES at this point. I'll stop there and hand things off to Vin. And Vin, at this point, if you want to run through a high-level demo of Knowify for folks, just explain the full project workflow, maybe jump into where office managers, accountants, and bookkeepers can go in and kind of manage AR and AP, and then just really dig in on some of those gaps that that exist in QuickBooks Online today and how Knowify helps fill them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cam. And essentially what you're looking at here is the Knowify home screen. I'll also have open QuickBooks on the other side to kind of show you how some of the information syncs across. So just kind of want to start here and highlight the fact that Knowify is not meant to replace QuickBooks by any means. It's designed to work in conjunction with each other. So essentially project managers and those working out in the job can focus on what they do best, and those working on the books, the accounting end of things, can focus on what they do best. QuickBooks is still going to be managing the accounting end of things, whereas Knowify is going to help manage the projects. And what you're looking at here on my screen is the project section in QuickBooks. So you do get a little bit of a breakdown at the job level, some general analytics here. You can run some reports, see transactions here, but where Knowify comes into play is that we're actually going to give a much deeper dive into all this information, help track this data in real time, and then anything that's going to affect the books, like our income, our cost, payments, things like that, will integrate directly into QuickBooks. So again, not meant to replace, but meant to work together. So from our home screen, I'm going to come right into my job section here. And you'll see that we already give you a lot more of a detailed breakdown at the job level. This is what we do best, so that you can come into this job section of Knowify, and this is what we'll commonly refer to as the beating heart of an account, as you can kind of scroll in here and see exactly where you stand on all of your projects at a given moment. So I can track jobs, as Cam mentioned, from when they start out as a lead to the process of bidding and creating a proposal, to the point where we're actually waiting for a digital e-signature. And once the job is active and we're in progress invoicing, managing our change orders, and tracking our work in progress. So all this information updates in real time on the Knowify side, and anything on the accounting end of things will integrate directly into QuickBooks Online. So when we're creating jobs here in Knowify, I'm just going to kind of dive into one and give you a little bit of a breakdown of an existing project here. Essentially, we'll have several different areas of a job to track the different aspects. So for example, we have our plan and track section in Knowify, and this is where the contractor is going to manage and plan how much the job is going to cost them. So this is where I'm able to see in real time how much I'm accumulating as far as cost, broken down by different categories here: materials, labor, subcontractors. We also have categories for equipment and miscellaneous costs. And we can also break the job down by individual job phases. This allows Knowify to be more accessible so that we can support a wide variety of businesses, as we don't force users into a specific workflow, because we understand that in the construction industry, there's a lot of varying workflows there. And so the user is able to kind of set these up based on how they manage the job. So they can add job phases, so they can track what is important to them, the different services they perform. Essentially, each phase is something that they can budget cost, track cost against, and manage, whereas this will also contribute to the total cost of the job. So not only are we giving them a breakdown of where they are with respect to their initial budget, but we're also showing them each individual aspect of the job and how they performed, so that they can help plan for future projects as well. Underneath each job, we're able to track the many aspects of a project, from material expenses to subcontractor services to internal labor, where they're tracking employees, logging their time. Again, also equipment cost, miscellaneous, things that don't necessarily fall into a specific category can all be captured in Knowify, so that again, when we come into this section here and we're looking, we're seeing exactly where we are on this project at any given moment here. When I'm setting up my budgets here, I'm able to kind of build these out based on my preference. I can do so by just putting in a lump sum amount for the budgeted cost here. And this is all that's required for me to get the numbers to show up at the top of the screen. But I can also use Knowify as a tool for estimating, And rather than putting in a lump sum amount, I can break it down by budgeting specific items here, specific services for subcontractors, and specific employees and their labor hours. Also, if I'm not sure which of the employees I'm going to be scheduling on the job, I can actually budget based on a role, a type of employee. So if we know that we're going to need a type of employee on the job, but we're not sure yet who is available, I'm still able to utilize Knowify to come up with an accurate cost estimate of how much I'm anticipating this to cost me. From the plan and track section, which remains active and we can modify and track throughout the project, we can go into our contract section here. And this is going to be the customer facing side of the job. This is where the contractor is able to prepare a bid or proposal to send to their client for acceptance or revision. And once that is accepted, which can be done through a digital e-signature in Knowify, we're able to manage our progress billing here. This is one of the many areas that I'm going to cover today as far as the gaps with how QuickBooks manages the jobs, progress invoicing, and change orders. Two things we want to focus on in this section. So on the QuickBooks side, I'm able to come in here and add an invoice at any point. I'm also able to create an estimate. So the idea of kind of having a pre-built estimate and then invoicing against it is an option in QuickBooks. However, we're actually helping the contractor manage their progress billing here right in the system. So for example, when I come in to create a new invoice, I can see exactly how much I've billed previously. I could do this on work complete percentage. I can also do this based on a dollar value or specific quantity of units. So we really try to keep this open-ended so the contractor can manage these jobs and these contracts based on whatever works best for them. So I can see exactly what I've invoiced for previously, broken down at the line item level, also for the job as a whole. And it makes it really easy for me as the contractor to come in and determine what my next invoice is going to look like here. Now, we're going to send this directly to QuickBooks. So the option will always exist to send the invoice out from QuickBooks, but Knowify actually produces a invoice document as well, which will include some information, and we can kind of customize how this looks here. I can combine items, add information, and also make sure that the information up here that's going to sync to QuickBooks is relevant. So my payment terms, when I'm going to show this invoice as due, the date of this invoice, you can see that we do check QuickBooks to make sure that we're not doubling up on invoice numbers. And then Knowify will produce this document here that we can customize. So that's another benefit to using Knowify for the invoicing, is that we can actually customize this document and make it as close as possible to what the contractor is comfortable with. So when they send these invoices out, they stand a better chance of getting paid and the customer recognizing the work that they're being billed for. Once we go ahead and verify and finalize this, you'll see I have a couple of options here that I can always trigger later, but I have the ability to send this right to QuickBooks. And you'll notice that unless I specifically come in and uncheck this, this is designed to go directly into QuickBooks. The idea is that we want to leave the guesswork out of this, and we want to be as automatic as possible to increase the efficiency of the contractor to make sure that their accountant and bookkeepers get the information they need to do what they need to do on the QuickBooks side. While again, the contractor can focus on what they do best, which is managing the job from start to finish. We also, as Cam touched on earlier, integrate directly with Intuit Payments, so we can actually enable that as well and send out an invoice for payment that their customer can pay them for right through Knowify's email. So I'm going to finalize this, and you'll see that without me even having to do anything, this invoice is already in QuickBooks. So the sync is that quick. I can actually pull myself right into QuickBooks from Knowify. This will open a new tab for me and bring me not only to QuickBooks, but also to where exactly this invoice was sent. And I can see all of that information I prepared is all retained here when it did transfer over to QuickBooks. Now, on the Knowify side, we're managing this invoice. We're showing it as outstanding, but if the idea of processing the payment is something done in QuickBooks, that's part of the sync back to Knowify. So the idea is that we're managing the job in Knowify, we're creating the invoice to log the revenue, but if we're processing the payment on the accounting end of things, that information is set to feed directly back into Knowify. Also, I mentioned earlier the payments integration. So Knowify can actually produce a payment link so that when they actually send out this invoice to their customer, the customer will receive a link that's inserted right here, and they'll be able to use this to pay directly with their card or bank account, depending on what option the contractor enables here when preparing this. Alternatively, they can actually come into the invoice in QuickBooks and they can mark it as paid here. And however they wind up paying this invoice in QuickBooks, Knowify will recognize that and we will pull that payment in as well. So for example, I'm just going to log a partial payment just to kind of show you how this process works. So that's payment is pulled in and it should be available in my Knowify account pretty quickly as well. I can trigger that sync here, and here in our log, we can see everything that's gone back and forth between Knowify and QuickBooks. I can see where it originated from. I get a log with detailed timestamps so that I'm on top of everything that's being communicated back and forth between the accounting and the project management. See that my payment was logged and pulled in, and it's logged directly against that invoice I just created. So now Knowify is showing the accurate remaining balance based on that payment in QuickBooks. So again, this is designed to work together. Now, another one of the gaps with QuickBooks is if we did need to make a change order. On the QuickBooks side in the project, we can always adjust the estimate, manually add an invoice. We do have ways of getting an additional charge to the customer against the job, but Knowify is going to help us manage this and also help us to communicate with our customer. So for example, I'll come into Knowify in that same contract section. I have add change order here, and this allows me to kind of manage this directly in the software. So I can put in my change order name here, my price. I can put in any kind of details of what specifically this change order is for. And Knowify gives the ability for the contractor to actually send out a digital e-signature to their customer. So I can see, when they open the email, if they sign it, they could digitally accept it. And now I have a legally binding document that's signed by the customer, and just kind of letting me know that they've approved this change and that they will not, push back when it comes time to invoice for it. Whether the customer signs that e-signature or we manually make it active, it's as easy as that. The next time I create an invoice in Knowify, you'll see that the change order is now an option for me to bill, and I'll have those same helpful progress billing options that Knowify offers. So the progress invoicing and the change orders really helps fill that gap on the QuickBooks side as far as just managing the contract and communication with the customer after the job is signed. Another one of the things that we will sync over to QuickBooks is the time entries here. So Knowify actually has a built-in time tracker where you can use our scheduling. Employees can use our mobile application. They can log in, log out. We always recommend going through Knowify for this because it does help facilitate the communication between the office and the field. So whereas the contract section and the change orders will help Knowify communicate with the customer, this will actually help internal communication amongst the team. So you can see here that I'm actually able to keep track of the employee logging the time against whichever job. We could actually timestamp specifically when they check in and check out of a project, and they have their location enabled. We can show exactly how far offsite they were when they did check in and check out. So this is all included within Knowify within a subscription. And once these hours are approved, this is something that would sync directly to QuickBooks. So if I'm running payroll in QuickBooks, I'm still able to do that the exact same way I've done before. Knowify is not transferring the cost of labor. What we're doing is transferring the hours themselves. So we are managing the loaded labor burden. This is not just what we pay the employee. This also takes into account any taxes, any additional fees, workers' comp, insurance, anything that contributes to how much they cost us per hour. Because when we log their time against the job and we show that labor cost, we want to make sure that we're showing the exact cost to the contractor so that they know how much it's costing them for this person to work. Knowify will then send the hours to QuickBooks for payroll. So you can see that as soon as I approved it, The sync is immediate. I have those hours here in Knowify. I have all of the project management tools. My mobile user is able to log their time, their notes, their purchases. They can check in and out. They can see their schedule. We can facilitate that communication. And at the end of the day, we send those hours to QuickBooks so that when we're running payroll in QuickBooks, those hours will now be included. We actually send them directly to the weekly timesheet section in QuickBooks. Actually, just pull up this example just to show you how seamless it is. They are able to map their specific Knowify employee to the QuickBooks employee so that we know exactly which timesheet to send it to. And then I can see those hours that I logged against the job sent right into QuickBooks so that when I have to run payroll, it's one less thing that I have to manually transfer over. Another one of the gaps is tracking the work in progress for a given job in Knowify. So for example, in this case, I have a WIP number that's exceeding 1 million here, and we can actually drill down further into where Knowify is getting this number. We are calculating the work in progress based on how much of the contract we've billed with respect to how much of the budget we've costed thus far. So when I have a positive WIP number like this means that I've actually taken on more cost than I've invoiced. So technically, if I were to invoice for this amount, I will have billed my contract the exact same amount that I've costed against my budget. And this number is really helpful to contractors because it's able to show them how far along they are with respect to what they've done so far. So for example, I have jobs when a WIP number is positive, that's telling me as the contractor, it's time for me to invoice because now I'm actually doing more than I've been paid for. But in jobs where I have a WIP number that's negative, this is telling me that I've actually invoiced for more of this contract that I've costed so far. The contractor will have the option to factor these numbers into their revenue or to just leave it separately. Some people like to see this number but don't want it factored into revenue. Other people will like to have that WIP number factored in. So cases where they invoice for a down payment initially and they don't start costing it, they don't want the job to show as 100% profit and mislead them. The WIP number helps keep that profit number in check. So it's more representative of what they've done so far rather than the specifics that they've billed for. Now, on top of that, you'll see that QuickBooks does offer some projects here. But one of the projects that Knowify offers that you won't find in QuickBooks is the WIP report. So if I come into the report section here of Knowify, we have many job level reports. We have reports on service work specific for time and purchases, but we will also have a very specific WIP report here. So the contractor is able to set a date range and see exactly how much of the job has been billed, has been approved, how many change orders have been accepted. They actually can kind of customize this and add and remove which columns and fields in the report are more important to them so that they're essentially customizing this report to only show the information that they need to obtain. They could run this report as often as they need to keep updated. And they can either run it directly in the system so that they could view it in the browser and they don't even have to leave Knowify for it, or they can export it to an Excel or a CSV file so that it can actually be manipulated and exported out of the system if needed. They can also put in additional filters here so that they can get more specific with which jobs and which information we're going to actually pull onto this report. So this is another one of the gaps that Knowify fills because this WIP number is not really accessible in the QuickBooks side. Again, QuickBooks, they're managing the accounting end of things and they do that better than anybody. But the job level reporting, work in progress, being able to manage those change orders, contract status, get digital e-signature through the system, progress invoicing. I mean, these are some of the many gaps that Knowify helps fill. And another benefit being that everything here is in one place. So using Knowify with QuickBooks is the ultimate setup because this way I can manage every aspect of my job as a contractor in Knowify, and I can make sure that the accountant has all the information they need on the QuickBooks side as well.
Attaching costs to a project, how is that done? Is that done in QuickBooks and it syncs over, or is that done in Knowify? Any sort of cost related?
Great question. And the answer is actually both. I mean, again, we really try to make this as accessible to different workflows for whatever works best for the user. So we'll always recommend doing it through Knowify, because the benefit of doing it through Knowify when you're logging costs, whether it's a vendor invoice, a open purchase order, an equipment charge, a reimbursement for an employee, really just about everything we have kind of set up in here. The idea of assigning it not only to a job, but also pointing it to that specific phase, having that level of job costing on the spot, we'll always recommend doing so in Knowify. But we do have the ability to pull expenses from QuickBooks as well. So for example, I can come in here to my project on the QuickBooks side. I can actually add a bill or a purchase, credit card charge, whatever the case may be. And this will factor back into Knowify, and it will not only be pulled into Knowify, but it will also be job costed automatically for me.
Okay, that's great. And if I had a bill, if it doesn't have enough, but every now and then you get a bill and it's for two separate projects, obviously in QuickBooks, you can then assign it to 2 different projects. In Knowify, can you do the same?
Yes, absolutely. We follow the same structure so that when we do map information, it shows up in QuickBooks the same way you enter it in Knowify. So just like you can have multiple line items pointed to different jobs in QuickBooks, you have that same setup here in Knowify, so that, because we're going to sync this to QuickBooks as well. So we want to make sure it
Certainly.
happens. Yes.
And then another question for you is the customers for a specific contractor, do they get a separate login? Do they log into Knowify? Do they have a portal for to track invoices, change management, all that?
Great question. So the customer, the contractor's customer rather, does not get a login, but we do have a customer portal option. I'll just pop into another account to show you real quick. But basically, the contractor is able to kind of determine in Knowify specifically what they want to share. Like they can actually enable a portal for the job. They could choose, we want to show invoices, we want to show progress. Maybe we don't want to show documents and logs. They can get as specific as they need it here. And this generates a link that they can share with their customers, and their customers essentially able to just kind of use this URL and bookmark it, and it will update automatically on a refresh. Yeah, what's cool about our portal too is they can actually pay the invoice or accept change orders, things like that, right through the portal. So it's interactive to a point where they're only getting the information we allow them to see, but it lets the customer know exactly where they're at as well.
Quick question when it comes to how would you schedule, if you had a number of projects and you have your team, do you do scheduling in QuickBooks or can you do scheduling in Knowify?
If we're using the Knowify time tracker, we'd recommend doing the scheduling through Knowify. It's essentially built into the system, so they could schedule. It works hand in hand with our mobile application. So when I schedule, I can actually send the employee that's scheduled a notification. They can check their schedule in advance to see what they have coming up. So if you're using Knowify for time tracking and then allowing those hours to sync into QuickBooks, then the scheduling portion of it would be done through Knowify. We have a couple of different options here. We have our corporate calendar, which is more high level. I usually say month to month on these. Then we have our boards, our job board here. They can kind of customize it. By default, it's 2 weeks, but this is where the real scheduling lives in Knowify. I'm actually able to schedule specific resources. I can see who is originally scheduled here. I can see them sorted by role. So you see here, I have foreman, I have 32 hours budgeted. I know I need some more foreman time, so I can come in here. I can sort by foreman. I can see who is available if they don't have a color-coded dot. So all of that scheduling will be done through Knowify.
And then one last question. With timesheet entry, so when we have an employee come into site, they obviously saying they clock in, they clock out. I saw you had the geofencing, the mapping there, so they can actually track their whereabouts GPS. Mm-hmm. If someone wanted to take a photo and attach it to a timesheet entry, for example, there was something broke or is what is confirmed that their task was completed, can they take a picture and then attach it into their time entry?
Yes, great question. So they can absolutely take pictures. They can either take it through the app or upload an existing one, but they can't attach it to a time entry. They would essentially just be attaching it either to the job itself or to a given purchase. So just to kind of give you an example here, like they can hit the plus sign here. This is kind of what the mobile app will look like, but it's more of a desktop version. So I can come in here to add a picture. It will ask me if I want to take one, if I'm on my phone, or if I want to use one from storage. But I'm essentially either uploading that to the jobs, and if I do it to the job, it's going to show up in the documents section, or they can attach a picture of a receipt when they're creating a purchase through the app.
Excellent. That's brilliant. That's very it's a very dynamic system that I think will work really well.
Yes, absolutely. Like we were saying, I mean, it really just works together with QuickBooks. So it allows the contractor to do what they need to do. It allows the bookkeeper to do what they need to do without any overlap. We know there's some cases where somebody's going to have access to both, but we found that this solves the, having the contractor and the accountant overlap in their duties. This really helps that division of responsibility with allowing everything to kind of integrate naturally on its own.
Absolutely, yes. Now, those, like you said, the work in progress report is really great, because QuickBooks, you can get the financial information, but not your progress billing and the work in progress quite well.
Exactly.
Thank you. I think that's it from my end. I don't have any other questions on my end. Perfect. Thank you. So thank you for everyone for attending. If you have any questions, as you said, you can reach out to Cam, or you can reach out to myself at RLB Digital. Thank you, Vincent. That was a great demo. Thank you very much. It was good to see the program. Any other questions, Cam? Vincent, feel free to email me.
Thanks, Thomas. Nice to meet you.
We've got a lot of
you as well.
practice.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.